So the Apple Watch Ultra was my #1 tech pick last year, and this is not because the Apple Watch is the #1 selling watch in the world, but it is something that I just cannot live without. So after spending 2 months with the new Apple Watch Ultra 2, I will share 10 tips and tricks that answer the burning question whether upgrading from version 1 to version 2 is worth it. Now, the first tip is that if you're keen on having Siri to tell you the time, here's a very neat trick. Just tap the watch face with 2 fingers and Siri will announce the time for you.
18:49.
Now, this feature should be turned on by default, but if it's not, no worries because you can easily switch it on in the clock settings of your Apple Watch. Now, speaking of Siri, Siri now works offline, so you can ask Siri more things like measuring your heart rate, how many hours of sleep you get, how many steps they have done, and since it's offline, it can get all of the answers to you very quickly. Now, talking about time, the second tip is the cool feature called Taptic Time. Now, this is another way to discover the time without glancing at your watch, as it will vibrate instead of telling you the time. But you'll need to choose between Taptic Time or Speak Time as mentioned earlier, depending on what suits you the best, as it uses the same 2-finger touch to activate that. So it's like choosing between whispering and tickling. Both has its own charm. Then tip 3 is about turning your Apple Watch into a handy camera remote. Now imagine this, you want to snap a great selfie or a group photo, but you want to use the rear camera instead because it has a better quality. Well, here's where the Apple Watch comes in, where you can use it to see what your phone camera sees. Now this way you can make sure that everyone is in frame even if you have your phone placed far away from you. And because you're using the iPhone's rear camera, you can use the ultra-wide lens to ensure that everyone makes it into the group shot. Now here's where you can also find some other neat features like the 3-second timer and tweaking other camera settings from your watch as well. And here is another bonus tip. If you do not have a tripod, no problem, because you can get creative and strap your Apple Watch behind your phone, where it is a very useful trick when it comes to vlogging as well. Let's talk about using your Apple Watch in bedside mode. Now here's how it works. Once you switch bedside mode on under general settings, if you place your phone next to your bedside, it transforms it into a handy little bedside clock when the watch is charging. And if any point in time the screen turns off, no worries because you just have to give it a knock on the table and it will show you the time. Now it is worth noting that this is a feature that has been around before the standby mode was introduced in iOS 17. So if you're looking for a smaller size bedside clock, something less bulkier than your iPhone, this Apple Watch feature could be very useful. Now speaking of similar features to the iPhone, specifically since the first Apple Watch Ultra, there is the action button on the side where you can customize it to do whatever you want. How? By mapping it to the shortcut buttons other than the default options available. Now this lets you add any functions you like using the shortcut app on your iPhone, where there is a special menu in the app just for the Apple Watch, but make sure that the app that you use is compatible with the Apple Watch. And here's a cool thing, that if you press and hold this button, you have a more defaulted actions, including activating a loud siren, and also having the option for an emergency call. Now this is a super helpful feature in very urgent situation, like if you're feeling panicked or if you find yourself lost in the jungle, which has happened to me before last year. Then for the next tip is using your Apple Watch to unlock your Mac. Now for that you just have to head to the system preference and you're done. So instead of typically going in and putting in your username and password, as long as your Mac recognizes that you're using the Apple Watch, it will automatically unlock the Mac. Next, let's dive into one of the latest features, which is NamDrop. Now this is pretty cool. Now if you bring someone's iPhone close to your Apple Watch, it will prompt you to share the contact details with them. Now to turn this on, just head to the settings, then contacts on the Apple Watch, and you'll find the toggle over there. And guess what? This also works from an Apple Watch to another Apple Watch too. And if it doesn't start automatically, no problem, because you can just open the contacts app on your phone, tap your profile at the top right and hit share. It's that easy. Next, let's talk about a feature called Double Tap, which is exclusive to the Watch Series 9 and of course the Apple Watch Ultra 2, since it's using the brand new S9 chip. So Double Tap is super versatile, where you can use it to double tap to answer phone calls, turn off alarms, start or stop a timer, take a picture, and even navigate through the widget stacks on the Apple Watch. Now to turn this feature on, you just need to head to the gesture menu in the settings. And while I'm a huge fan of this feature, I wish that it had a single tap option to choose the exact menu when you're navigating on the widget stacks. And since this is exclusive to the S9 chipset, it is not available in earlier Apple models. But Don't worry, because there is another tip coming up that offers something similar on those models, and that is called Assistive Touch. So this feature comes available once you turn it on in the accessibility settings. Then to activate Assistive Touch, clench your hand twice. After that, you can navigate your watch by clenching and pinching. Now yes, this will take a while for you to practice this, but once you master it, you'll feel like a Sith Lord.
You don't know the power of the dark side.
But one thing to remember is that if you're using Assistive Touch, you won't be able to use the double tap feature if you're using this on the Apple Watch Ultra 2 or the Apple Watch Series 9. Then for the final tip is all about tracking. Now similar to how you find your AirTag, your Apple Watch can help you find your iPhone too. But it's just not about making your phone just ping with a sound. Where if you're trying to locate your phone, it uses precision finding, where the screen turns green as you get closer to your iPhone, and it also works the other way around. So this is done on the iPhone by adding the Ping My Watch feature from your iPhone's control center. Now this is especially handy if you misplace your Apple Watch. But once again, this is exclusively available only for the new Apple Watch Ultra 2 and the Apple Watch Series 9. So yeah, this sometimes feels like you can play hide and seek but just using tech gadgets. And what's cool is that if you want to share your location easily with a friend or family member, just head to the Messages app on your watch. From there, you can send your location directly and they can find you easily using Apple Maps. So if you're wondering whether or not you should upgrade from the Apple Watch Ultra 1 to the new Apple Watch Ultra 2, let's break it down. And now at first glance, they do look the same. And by the way, if you're wondering, this is the new sleek titanium band for my Apple Watch Ultra 2, which is from Sandmarc, which I'll put a link in the description below. Now the real upgrades from the version 1 to 2 is on the inside. And here's what I've noticed. The battery life first and foremost is outstanding. The battery drain was also quite different, dropping just 1% overnight when I was using the watch for sleep tracking. And without any workout because I was recovering from surgery, the battery lasted almost 3 days with features like sleep tracking and the always on display active. And while the Apple Watch Ultra 1 was already smooth, but the new S1 chip in the Ultra 2 makes navigation a little bit more sleeker. Now the difference is subtle but it's there. Then navigating through the digital crown seems smoother, and that also could be because the buttons have been used for a year compared to when I was just using the Apple Watch Ultra 2. Then the display brightness is another big plus, because we're talking a jump from 2000 nits to 3000 nits of brightness, which is very noticeable outdoors. Now features like double tap and precision finding is also a great addition to this new Apple Watch Ultra 2, which I really come to love. So if you have the Apple Watch Ultra 1 and can live without the improved battery, the brighter screen and all the new features mentioned earlier, then you should just maybe wait for the next generation, because I've always said that you'll notice a more significant difference when you skip 2 generations. But if you're upgrading from the Apple Watch Series 8 or earlier, then that is a definite yes. And speaking of the Apple Watch Ultra 1, check out my review of that over here.